Once again, very good morning to everybody who's come for today's session. Um, so today's session is going to be about incident response and SOC playbook. And the expert for today's class, Mr. Sivaprasad Sahukar. A quick introduction about himself is that he has over or almost close to 2 decades of experience in the cybersecurity industry. He's been born, raised, and has most of his life spent in Hyderabad, and currently he resides in Bangalore. As far as his job is concerned, he works with Soft Path Systems, and he spearheads the security team as a CISO and also the Security Operations Center. Most of his jobs is usually around building infrastructures around the cybersecurity and implementing practices and best practices around it. When it comes to certification, he comes with a plethora of certification, including ISO 27001, CEH, CPISI, etc., to name a few. He also is a constant learner. He is an avid technology fan, and he's interested in economics. And I've had the privilege to interview sir and have interacted on a couple of sessions. And I can not thank him enough to be here today. It's a privilege, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys who have attended today's session will have some takeaway from this class after the session is done. So if you guys have any questions, would request you to put them onto the chat, and we have a dedicated Q&A session towards the end. And without any further delay, I'd request Shiva sir to take the platform. Shiva sir, warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Kaushik. Again, good morning, everyone. Nice to be here with all of you, and happy to share what I can. All right. So Kaushik, how shall we do? Shall I share my screen?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes. Chandu, can you stop screen sharing, please?
Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, I did it, sir.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, just give me a second. All right, so hope everyone are able to view my screen.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Thank you so much. All right, so my introduction is already done. So let me go about giving a high-level agenda, what exactly we will be looking at or will discuss today. So yes, we'll talk about what is incident management. Again, the whole agenda is at a high level, but what we really wanted to discuss, or at least I wanted to talk about, is my experience or what exactly is going on in the current scenario or current world of cybersecurity, and how is it actually, what will it be in another few years or probably a decade? So we'll try to take some of those examples and move in that direction. So yeah, in that sense, the topics may look a little bit, let's say, to the world of today. But we will take those examples. So in that sense, we'll discuss about what is incident management, what is SIEM, and the security data. Now, this is a big topic which keeps popping up on everyone's radar. We'll also talk about incident response plan. As in a plan, this is nothing again new, but how is it extremely important? Even though it is taken for granted, but again, how important it is. We'll discuss about that. What is a SOC playbook? Again, this is where we slightly move ahead in refining what is incident management or how events are handled and how exactly today's next gen SOC are taking these events and managing them. We'll also discuss a little bit about a SOAR. What is a SOAR, and how automation has taken over the entire SOC as such. And we will take some sample playbook and we'll discuss about it. But again, we'll try to spend as much on a Q&A session, because that is where at least I feel there's a lot more interaction which can happen, and lot much can be discussed there. Okay. So we'll move ahead. So again, this is done. So again, as in a definition. So if we start about answering what is incident management, it's been understood or it's been taken as such. So I just took some definition which I really liked, which is pretty nice. Which talks about incident management is a process of defining, managing, recording, and analyzing security threats or incident in real time. So as in a definition is good, but many times people generally take incidents as mostly machine driven or machine generated, or the events which come out of a machine, that is the only one which generally pops out on anyone's security cyber security professionals. But incidents are also non-technical, okay, technical as well as non-technical. So it has to be taken very well, because as in a SOC, these incidents are which also becomes non-technical and also cyber security related. Same goes, incidents again, as I said, is machine and also human generated. So we discuss a lot on various tools generating a lot of alerts, but these incidents are also human generated. So that is, someone can in fact raise a incident, and that is something which a security professional has to take it up and deal with it. Not all events are incidents. That is another another notion. Every event which comes out of a technology or a solution need not be an incident. Again, again, we all know about it, but we will talk about in terms of technology, how do we handle the amounts of events which is coming in. Again, multiple events can become a single event, single incident, sorry. And as in, if a new cybersecurity professional is looking at a technology, he will definitely understand how exactly this becomes so important. So many events can turn into a single incident, or probably even one event can turn into a single incident. So handling those incidents become very crucial, and sometimes time consuming, and does take a lot of human effort, as well as technology to dig deeper into it. We'll also talk about what is how exactly incident management can be part of an overall incident management process. So security events can become just a part of it. The overall incident management of an organization can be much higher and bigger. In that, security incidents could be, but as in a SOC, if a security team who manages the SOC, for them the scope generally revolves around security incidents, which are basically generated from, as I said, either a machine, or if it is a human related or human generated, or from a different sources, of a machine or a human generated. So these are some at a very high level, which we discuss in terms of how to handle these incident management. Again, we discuss, we talk a lot about incident management and all, but at the core, or at the back end, generally it is being handled by a tool. So you may look at let's say a ticketing tool, any ticketing tool, which are used to handle these incidents, because once an event or an incident is being identified, definitely a security professional creates them in a ticketing tool, and from there on, the whole the whole process of handling that incident, or the entire life cycle of an incident happen. So we'll also discuss on how do we look at it at a broader perspective, and also go a little bit deeper in how can these incidents become either extremely complicated, or can go exponentially high, and create a lot of let's say burden, as well as rewarding to a cybersecurity professional. In just wanted to give a perspective in today's and tomorrow's world. Obviously, ticketing tool are being used as a as a go-to technology for managing incident. But if we look at even today, people have moved slowly towards processor or tools like Slack or Jira or similar kind of platform where incidents are managed at a much rapid pace than a ticketing tool. So these have lesser friction in managing incidents, and there's a lot of ease of communication, and all sharing information and handling these incidents become much more smoother. So if you wanted to look into the future, I guess ticketing tools are definitely is a backbone. There is nothing going away from it. But more smoother technologies or more advanced technologies are coming onto the market or in the play, and that is how what I feel has to be done. Okay, so SIM, one of the what do you say, one of the biggest technologies which we have seen in today's world. I don't need to explain what is a SIM. Almost all of the security professionals in a way know what it is: security information and event management. But we'll just try to touch base at the basics of these, but more of how SIM can, SIM has evolved and what exactly is going to happen with them. So SIM, again, as it says, it aggregates log event data from multiple sources. It could be a server, it could be a network device, it could be a firewall. Any of these security solutions, like your antivirus solutions or anti-malware solution, your user behavior analysis, those kind of platforms. To an extent, it can also integrate data from different other sources like your threat intel, vulnerability database, and many more. This is where SIM has become extremely powerful in capturing all this information and then taking it further in terms of processing and managing all the events which have generated. So again, most of the SIM normalize event data. So again, it's a very common term, and not everyone does this. But some of the SIM solution definitely normalize data, that is making all of the events into a common format, so that it can handle or it can manage its the overall. So we will talk about what is the rules and what are correlation rules, what are reports, dashboards, databases, and all. So all of those can be. All of those something which SIM does as in a natural. But again, we have seen in terms of evolution, this normalization is no more a constraint. Some of the SIM solution are able to handle even raw events and create, or say create, perform correlation, create dashboards and reports even out of the raw data. So that has been a great achievement, at least in terms of managing it, because we have seen SIM, many years back, and today's SIM technology are at a next level. Storage of data is one of the biggest, let's say, challenge as well as advantage of a SIM. So a lot of data gets stored in a SIM, when we talk about terabytes of data, which these devices can handle, again, in terms of storage and later on historical analysis or any forensic analysis. SIM play one of the most crucial role, storing it as an evidence without tampering it, and then later on producing when it is needed. So this is where SIM plays one important role, at least for a compliance or forensic analyst. The biggest role of a SIM again over here is correlation of these events. Now correlation, when we talk about it, can be in terms of a certain condition, that is during this time of a day and this particular number of events, if it has occurred, then yes, certain rules will be triggered. Similar goes with, you can create correlation against multiple events. If you see an event from an antivirus solution and a firewall, or if it is a server, or if it is an audit log from a Active Directory. So these events can be correlated, and a certain rule can be triggered, or a alert can be generated, or even you can prioritize, or increase the incident level of a event. So it could be, let's say, a severity 3. You can, based on these correlation, it can even go to 3 or 4 or a 5, if it is 5 is the highest. So that way, lot of the entire engine or the core of SIEM is your correlation part. And this is where I would say any security analyst should spend most of his or her time to define these correlation rules, and also keep refining them. If you just keep the correlation rule as is, which has come out of the OEM or from the vendor, and if you have not fine-tuned it, what you will end up is a bunch of alerts in your dashboard, and to a point that nothing much can be done, and it will it keeps piling on, and then at a point no one will even look at the dashboard. Okay, you probably pick and choose some of them and start working on it. So at least I would say most of the time has to go over here. Again, I understand these are huge amounts of alerts which keeps generating on a SIEM. But again, we'll get to that. When we move forward in terms of how to automate, and then how to build these playbooks on these events, it becomes much easier. SIEM, yeah, again, the entire life cycle of an event can be revolved around a SIEM. I'm not saying that all events get stored in a SIEM, but that should be a best practice, to store all the events without missing any device or any log. Again, just to give you a small picture, I just try to put some picture over here. So this is generally how a SIEM look like. If you look at the diagram, it has a firewall, it has a server, routers, many other solutions, right? All of those gets collected, or the logs get being given to a collector, or a similar kind of component. Could be any solution, but most of them basically have one of these collectors, which is nearly near to these infra. So if you have a cloud infra where you have all your servers, network devices, and everything, you basically tend to have a collector over there, and then it in turn can send based on the rules, or if some rules are defined on the collector, can send it to SIEM, or the entire data can be sent it to SIEM. And over there, you can store the data, you can process all the alerts, you can create dashboards, reports, and many other things. So here, some of the SIEM solution also have some ticketing capability, but what we have seen is those kind of ticketing capabilities generally being given to a third party, or other solution, to handle those incidents. But again, not all incidents are being integrated to them, because if you do, you'll end up managing hundreds and thousands of tickets on your ticketing platform. So this is part of a SOC, which a security professional take care. If you are new to it, this is generally how it will look like. You'll get a bunch of incidents on your SIEM solution, and you pick and choose. Not pick and choose. Basically, you perform your analysis, you do deep dive, and then understand, okay, now this incident is actually a true positive, or some of them are false positive, and then you take it up from there. Okay, now we keep talking about huge amounts of data which is flowing in, but this is where in the next current generation, or even in the future, all these events which are coming to a SIEM, they have to go through a certain rule set to define an alert. But what happens if these are all in real time. So there is nothing, at least to a certain extent, I have not seen a SIEM actually going back in history and performing certain, certain analysis. Now, this is where we look at ML, machine learning, as one of one of the key component. It's not just about looking back in history, but also creating a pattern in when an event comes in. It is extremely difficult for a human to keep track of these events and then create sort of a pattern in their mindset. So it is extremely difficult for you to keep looking at a screen and this then noting, okay, this event has occurred. Let's say there was a there was a let's put it in this way. There was a alert from an antivirus solution that event A has occurred, and then after some time you see in an Active Directory there has been certain audit failures, or that is user getting brute forced, and then later on some other let's say a film. On a film there is file which has gone, file has been tampered. Now these multiple events, if you look at, are all different events, as in a SIM solution, or even if anyone wanted to do an analysis. But if you have created if you have given these events to a machine learning engine, now it will not look at all of those are different events. It will try to map based on, let's say, if it is some sort of phishing attack or some sort of malware which is trying to progress in the network or in the infrastructure. This is where an ML becomes extremely important, because all these events which are flowing through cannot practically be monitored by a human, and definitely need a machine learning support. So yes, what's the conclusion? SIMs get humans, a lot of data gets bombarded on a SIM, and this is not going anywhere. So what is it going up? Or if you look at future today, or even in another few years, now I feel at least this is how it is going to happen. All your IoT or OT networks, including despair systems and robots, or if you talk about your far remote site solar panels or solar plants, windmills and cars, connected cars to be more precise. Now, these are the kind of events which at least I see in the next coming years is going to happen. These will not directly dump data onto the SIM, but it will definitely go into a certain operational database, and from there, it is definitely going to come to a SIM. And it becomes more and more difficult for an analyst to not just understand what is an IT generated, or any of the existing application generated event, but also these machine generated event, or various devices which are generating these event, and how are we going to monitor them? So let's say tomorrow someone is trying to hack into a connected, or say car which has let's say a certain Wi-Fi being open, and obviously as in a device, it will, let's say, protect itself, or if it is not able to even protect itself, it will definitely like to send out data to its command center, and from there it in turn comes to, let's say, a cybersecurity dashboard, or if you may have a separate SOC only for that, where you keep monitoring all these events flowing into your system. Similar goes with, it could be a drone. Again, even drones are, if you see today, they are being shot down by Wi-Fi's. You don't need to be an expert to bring down a let's say previous gen drones, just by a simple Wi-Fi attacks, and you can take control of them. Same goes with any of these autonomous robots, or factory equipment, or we will put it as an OT as a common terminology. All of these devices, or all of these machines, again, are on a IP network, and once you have IP network, hackers are in a way able to touch till there, and in turn bring them, let's say, attack them, and do many other things. So what really happened? They generate huge amounts of log data, and filtering them, and then trying to figure out what exactly happened in it, and how to monitor them, or how to handle those incidents become extremely crucial. And that is how I feel in the next few years is going to happen. Okay, moving next. So we can, in our Q&A session, I'm more than happy to discuss more about it. We'll do that in our next session. So we'll do a quick poll, Kaushik, or
Yep.
we'll do one.
Yep. So guys, here's the question: what kind of data or information SIEM can be integrated to? You can check the options, and you can start polling. Last 30 seconds.
Yeah, if anyone has any doubts, there even let's say if they miss recollecting, you're free to put it in the chat, or we can later on bring those questions up and discuss upon it.
Last 15 seconds. Okay. Chandu, can you also share the result, please? All right, sir. So all of is something that most of them have answered. Followed with.
You're right. You're right. Good to see. It's nothing. I understand the general consensus that log data is the only one, but again, yes, vulnerability and threat intel are also security data which can be integrated with the current generation, or even some of the past generations. Yeah, that's okay. We just wanted to see what is the overall. Excellent. Thank you so much, Kaushik.
All good, sir.
Okay, we'll go next. Kaushik, you wanted to take this part, or you wanted to present it, or
I'll just quickly run through. So guys, this is just a quick introduction about our ANTWOC program. So if you could just go to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So in a nutshell, the program duration, we recently launched a boot camp, which entails a lot of experts from their own domain coming and giving their tips and tricks of the trade, as most of the experts involved in this program are almost like in the industry for more than a decade to 2 decades. The program duration runs for 16 weeks with 12 weeks of core domain and 4 weeks of professional skills. Our class duration usually runs 3 classes per week, which is 1 on a Saturday and 2 on Sunday. And we also have, as I mentioned, 10 plus experts, 40 plus live classes. We don't do pre-recorded sessions. Every class is a live class. And we also believe in the necessity and the importance of having projects. And the entire course is just priced at 49,999 with a special discount running of 5,000 rupees today. We also have EMI options available at 0 cost. Sir, the next slide, please, if that's okay. So these are the programs, and on a nutshell, we're going to be doing from the basic introduction to network security, cyber security, cyber attacks, web application, incident management. So if you see, we're just not only teaching you conceptual learning, but we are also teaching you the tools associated with it. So just the next slide, please. And these are the other feeds that you're also learning about. So incident management, GRC, identity and access, cloud security. All of these tools, all of these courses are covered in depth over the 16 weeks of time. And you'll also be learning about additional tools with respect to each domain. and there will be a project based off every island. So we not only want you to learn the conceptual part of every island, but we also want you to learn the practical aspect of it and make your life much more easier for people who are wanting to transition into the cybersecurity industry or people who are wanting to upgrade themselves. I definitely urge you guys to just check this program out. Thank you, sir. You can continue.
Thank you so much. Okay, so on with our discussion. Okay, so what we have seen till now, what is an incident, what exactly kind of technology which we are using. So SIM is just one part of the whole technology. Events and incident come also from different other solutions. We will discuss a little bit more on that. So, okay, now we got all these events and everything. Now, what exactly we do with it? As in many organizations have multiple teams with them in terms of one team can just do a monitoring part, the other team, mainly these are the next level or L2 kind of level team, which handle most of the response part of it. Okay, now this is where we are talking about, teams can be, it can be internal and all those, we'll talk about that. But if you look at NIST, 800-61 release 2 or 800-61 R2. So the NIST has an amazing document, how to handle these incident and what kind of response you need to do. It's been well written. But again, mainly classified into these 4 major buckets, which talks about, preparation, detection and analysis, containment, containment, eradication and recovery, which as a one major bucket, and obviously a post-incident activity. So once all is done, what exactly you need to do. Again, this is as in a process, not necessary when we look at when we look at an overall incident management or incident response plan. Now, even these single buckets can be further divided. It actually happens in many SOC if you look at, and also in terms of team, which team actually handle which activity. But as a process, this is at a very high level process, and the way which we see, almost all of them use the same, or all of them handle the same way. So in terms of preparation, what kind of preparation you are looking at, that is what kind of manuals, documents, information you are carrying, and many other things which has to be having, including the people, what kind of teams you have, what kind of scope or coverage they are having. So many other things happen in your preparation phase. Detection analysis, again, tool, the whole people, process and technology, right? So obviously, one you have people, the other you have process. These kind of processes generally are being laid, and technology. So if it is a SIM, if it is a user behavior, if it is, let's say, even an email box, where you get a lot of phishing emails and spam mails, where a SOC has to handle, or a security professional has to handle. So all of those becomes, one major process, or a stream of information or events which come towards it. So let me give a little bit of a high level understanding what kind of dependencies these have, or even if you are trying to build a new SOC, what is that which you really need to look at. Obviously, for everything, management support is crucial. Without that, I don't see much success when you're trying to build these SOC or the entire incident response plan. For everything, you definitely need to have a senior management support. Again, because most of these incidents are technical, you need a lot of IT support, or if you have a separate IT team, or you are itself a part of a overall IT support, then yes, a great deal of support is definitely needed. Many incidents actually cross the barrier, and some of the incidents may need a little bit of a legal support. Again, we have seen time and again, teams get stuck, hey, okay, I got an incident, I know it is from a certain organization, but I don't know what to do with it. Let's say if it is some other organization from where there's a lot of events coming in, as in probably you can respond to them, but beyond that, there is very little that a security professional do have a control or can do. So you definitely need to have a certain legal, legal wireframe being created. And if such incident happen, what is that, legal team can help you on that. Third-party suppliers or OEMs. I don't need to separately mention this, but sometimes what happened, even in my previous history, we didn't had information of these people. Not everyone, but at least some of them. At a one point, what I literally faced is we had a third-party entity which is basically connected to our network, let's say over a site-to-site or some other VPN, and we saw certain, obviously, an attack which is happening from their network to us. We know what to do. We can practically terminate the tunnel and everything, but that will literally disrupt the business. But we didn't knew whom to contact in the third party provider. Now these kind of scenarios generally happen, and it happens more when you have more and more suppliers or these third parties connected to your system. Let's say I'll give you one more example. So I had my previous stint with one of the airports in India, and the entire airport functions primarily and solely on the on suppliers or third party. Airport itself has a smaller footprint, but these suppliers are like hundreds and hundreds of them. So maintaining and managing contact information in case of such incident, I can't stress more, but during a crisis, during a scenario, you definitely don't want to run around figuring out these information. You definitely need to have them at least as in a database, or at least for an incident responder, these information becomes extremely crucial. Similar goes with other departments or other IT people. I don't, I think that is like a taken that you definitely have these information. If it is a third party, or if it is a outsourced entity, even if it is your system, you need to. Most of the current scenario is all about cloud. If it is a cloud environment, do you know as of today that okay, now my server is being hacked, or there has been a certain attack or which is happening on my server? How do I contact, or whom do I contact to know to which system, or which email ID or a phone number, could be anything. Those details are exceptionally or extremely important. There is no going away. Again, as an incident responder team structure, there are multiple models which we have seen. If you are new to this, there are central and distributed response team. There is also sometimes coordination team and many more. So it keeps going on. The model is up to you how organization want to design or depend on it. Again, it can be employees, it can be outsiders, and many other. Team structures are generally 24/7, 16/5. Again, it depends on how a responder happen, because few of the scenario what I have seen is these teams, like generally you have a 24/7 monitoring. So who keeps monitoring alerts on a continuous basis. But you have a smaller team which is coverage may be much less, probably a 16/5 or even just one shift to manage these incidents. So that is how which we look at in terms of the entire team structure. But again, this is just at a very, very, very high level plan. When we go deeper into it, how do we create these plan? And the best approach is to create playbooks or run books. Okay. So what is a playbook? Or many people even call it as a run book. So playbook is basically a set of rules describing one or more actions, and which definitely have certain trigger points, and more on again more events. I won't say just one event. These are generally more and more events which which generally happen. Let's say if you're receiving if you're receiving multiple events on various technology, could be SIM, could be your email box. Let's say there has been certain phishing attack, where you got someone has triggered mail which is phish. You may also have to look into, say, a SIM. If your antivirus has thrown some alert over there. So how do you tie all these things? So this is where a playbook is exceptionally important. I can't stress more and more, because I'll tell you, practically I have seen it. When I talk to people, or when I even say interview or discuss with someone, I generally ask, do you have a run book or you have a playbook? Some people, yes, they have a run book or a playbook, but at a point, it is not been followed. It has never been updated. It has never been handled where or refined it much further. So these playbook, again, what exactly it contain? So obviously these are advanced workflow. So the entire playbook is sort of a slightly bigger workflow. You can start off with a smaller workflow. That is, you can start with creating a simple workflow so that it doesn't create a lot of strain in your system. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then ends. Or it can be as big as, if you're looking at a diagram right now, say if it's a phishing playbook, something like that as well. Defined responses or actions. Every point, or at least at the end of a playbook, you should definitely have or need to have an action or a response to it. Whether you can close an incident, or whether it will in turn create further investigation into some other event, or it is you're basically accepting and you're triggering it as a major incident. The action could be anything. What really comes out of the playbook is very important. Again, it has multiple flows. It actually touches upon multiple area. The playbook is also places where you can definitely define, saying that, okay, now an analyst, once he sees an event, let's say if he has received a email which says, I wouldn't call it as an email. Let's say if he has received an alert which says it's a malicious IP address. Now, how do you find out that it is a malicious IP address? Do you validate it from some third party? Do you have a threat intel subscription? And from there, you confirm whether it is a malicious IP address. Now, these are some areas which you definitely need to understand and inject into your playbook when you're designing or when you're writing a playbook. What kind of steps you need to take care? Whether you need to, let's say, contact your networking team, or you need to contact your IT team, or if it is a third party with whom you need to contact, or a other tool which you need to verify. Now, all these become multiple blocks in your, or multiple steps in your playbook. And this is where you can actually handle more. So when I say handle more, you can practically handle more and more tickets if you have a defined playbook. Why are we saying this? Again, it's nothing rocket science. It is just following a certain process so that there is certain knowledge base being created. That is, you have seen 100 of these incidents coming in, and almost all of them, let's say your phishing attacks or your DOS attacks and those kind of things. If you can categorize them and use these playbook to further ease your time and quickly respond to an incident. This is the whole story which has to be which has to be curated in a playbook and created. Doesn't matter who comes in or who goes out. It's extremely important. We'll do a quick poll again, and then we'll quickly move forward. Kaushik.
Yep. Because we're just going to have a second poll. Unlike the first one, the second poll has multiple choice, so you can choose multiple choices here. Chandu, can we have the poll, please? Thank you. So DDoS attacks comes from a malicious address can be blocked by enforcing controls and policies on.
Yeah, by the time people are taking, so what we are trying to look at is only few of the areas, DDoS, or it could be phishing attacks, or it could be any of the, the current, ransomware, which is in turn turning into a ransomware. Support from multiple teams are very important. So this is where we say defining your playbook and putting them properly or designing them is exceptionally important. Now, why is what we will go next, and understand why, or how a playbook can be turned into one of the most powerful tool in your entire SOC, and how can you practically reduce most of your effort, most of your let's say time-consuming activity, or automate all of them. Not all of them, at least 60 to 70% of alerts in a way can be automated, depending upon what kind of infra you are handling, whether it is e-commerce infra, it is a banking or financial infra, manufacturing. So based on that, you can define multiple playbooks or various kinds of playbooks.
All right, guys, last 10 seconds. Right?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, sure, sir. And yes, I think that's the result, sir.
Yes. Okay. Yes, in a way, many people are right. Yes, perimeter firewall, definitely. Sorry. Yeah. And definitely on server, you can do that. Not generally, I have not seen much of a practice, but yes, if you are limited on resources, you don't have a firewall. And yes, SIM, not generally, but today's SIM do have a feedback loop or mechanism into firewalls and IPS and HIPS solution. Yes, and yeah, all of the above do definitely match. Okay, thank you so much, Kaushik. I'll go next.
Yep.
We have probably just few more slides before we take questions. All right, so we have all seen what are these playbooks and how exactly they handle. Now, how do you automate all these things, right? So this is where SOAR comes in, our tool of let's say today and tomorrow's world. So what is a SOAR? So SOAR, again, as in a definition, or if you want to abbreviate it, it's a security orchestration, automation, and response platform. Yes, obviously, it's been coined by Gartner and later on. But the whole crux of SOAR is, so what exactly it does? It actually you can create orchestration, or you can actually automate your entire incident response plan or incident response in a SOAR, that is starting from receiving or integrating events into your SOAR till what kind of let's say ancillary actions has to be taken, whether the event has to be validated against let's say a threat intel, or it has to go through a standard, or if it is already an existing knowledge base. So okay, now this is a phishing email, or if it is a spam email, which obviously consumes a lot of time of a security analyst, it can validate itself in that knowledge base, and then you can the SOAR will take respective action, whether it has to close it as a standard spam, it will close those email events, or it has to take further course of validation in terms of let's say, again, I said you need to check in a threat intel database, or if nothing has been concluded, probably escalate it to the next level of team. So this entire process of a person trying to look into an event, take respective action, whether if it is validating from an existing knowledge base, or looking into a threat intel database, or trying to do any kind of analysis. Let's say if an IP address is an internal IP address, or if it is an external IP address, the emails are internal or external, could be multiple things, right? All of these a SOAR can automate and only give those events which it really sees that, okay, this is what I'm being designed for, and this next course of action has to be taken care by a human. Now that level of automation you can use SOAR for, and mostly you use SOAR to take the bulk of the work. That is, if there is a stream of events which is extremely time consuming for a analyst, now that is the work which you definitely wanted to give it to SOAR, and you wanted to take the cream, or at least those events which you don't think a SOAR has to take care, or you see that it is better to handle by analyst, and rather than give it to SOAR. That is a step which generally is taken care or is being done on a SOAR. Again, it all depends on designing a playbook on a SOAR. So even designing the playbook is like building blocks. What we have just seen, step one, this is an action, or then you have a split in decision, whether it is you have to go in either ways of the curve, or you wanted to validate with some existing database of, if you have a knowledge base and all those. So you basically design it and solve. There are multiple benefits. I don't need to really stress upon it. Yes, faster response, optimizing your threat intel, reducing manual operations and standard processing. All these are benefits of a SOAR. There are multiple benefits. There is nothing, I don't want to shy away from it. Yes, there are a lot of benefits which goes about, and using the SOAR. I'll just go forward, because we are sort of running short of time. Before, we'll try to spend some good time in answering some questions rather than, here. So again, this is some examples of a playbook, and these are also designed for SOAR. That is, you can straight away create these as your template in your SOAR, and your SOAR will take respective action. So if I take one example, let's say the one on the right side, or if you're looking at on the screen, starting from your incident response to recognizing or tracking, and then classifying it, and from there you can take multiple channels. One, if it is either it could be a defined procedure. If you have a defined procedure for that, you can take that route. Then if it is a criticality, if it is a critical level, you can go to level, next level of it. Similar goes with if it is a new event and you don't know what a SOAR has to take care, then obviously it can take another route, and there analyst can dig deeper into it if you wanted to split the event and find more evidences which are needed for it, and according to that, further actions can be taken care before incident gets closed. So a lot of such steps generally go, and decisions can be made in the SOAR itself. That is, a whole playbook can be defined in that way and created. As in if you think that as a SOC analyst or a SOC engineer, you don't have a big playbook, you don't need to worry. Just create a smaller playbooks for your various incident type. Make it as simple as possible, so that later on you can expand it and start enhancing your playbook. But at least start off with a smaller playbooks, and then from there you can further enhance, get more details in that playbook, and keep expanding that. So that is how, let's say, even I have done, or I would recommend anyone also to do. Don't go ahead and create huge playbooks, which is slightly difficult for someone to understand and take it forward. Quick poll, and then we'll take some questions after that.
Yes, sir. So guys, this is the last poll for the day.
So I have to, let's say hide one or two slides which go a little bit detailed or depth into what, the benefits and all those things about SOAR and also on SIM, just to just try to have a discussion or conversation rather than going a little bit more theoretical. We'll try to spend more time on taking up questions after this poll.
Last 10 seconds. All right, Chandu, can you stop the poll and just share the result, please?
Yeah. Yeah, as expected, most of them are right.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take questions or any questions right now, and please feel free. There's nothing small or big questions.
So, sir, there are a couple of questions in the chat already. So we'll just pick some from there. So we have one of the questions which says, what is false positive and false negative? Could you explain with a live example?
Definitely. So false positive are, are, let's say, event or which is, let me give you an example. You find in your mail or in your alert dashboard saying that there has been a shell script executed, or someone actually executed a application. So that let's say an antivirus has created as an attack. But once you go about and dig deeper into or say question the user or anything, it says that it is, obviously it is initiated by him. It is not a real malware or anything which was executing that shell script or a application. So those kind of false positive you get quite often in a in your SOC. False negative, yes. False negative is another area which which happens if an event gets slipped under the radar, and any of your solutions cannot identify them, or you basically your protection or even your detection solution cannot identify them. That is a whole issue over there. So this is where we say SIM has to get as much data as possible. So practically, I don't want to say that security analysts say that okay, no, these are the events only which we will capture in a SIM. It shouldn't be the case. It should capture as much information possible so that we don't get these kind of false negative event. Let's say if a attack has happened or some execution has happened in a RAM, and your antivirus solution or any of the detection solution or protection solution was not able to identify, yes, you have a false negative over there.
All right, sir. We got another question. What are the futuristic views of SIEM?
Definitely. So ML, definitely ML. Machine learning should be, or if in fact it is already there in most of the SIM solution. ML is the one, and ML plus SOAR is is what you say good combination of futuristic SIM. AI, people talk about a lot about AI, but more or more it is generally the SOAR which comes out with its own playbook and handle a certain incident. So that is what I would say. And obviously big capacity and larger performance by a SIM.
Right. So we have another question. Does incident management have any relations with project or product management?
Incident management, product or project, I don't think we call it as anything, but again, incident management overall in an organization is handled across all the departments. Security function is, let's say, one such function. Incident management can also be caused, let's say, by a non-technical. Let's say there is a certain building related incident, or a human what do you say, non-technical, again human related incident. All those incident will definitely consider as non-technical and sometimes non-security related incident. But yeah, you have those.
So we just have another question that says, what is SIM for and what is SOAR for? I mean, I think they're talking about the purpose bit of it.
Sure. So SIM is again all your logs, events which are generated by a machine, that is a network device, or it could be a server, or as I said, even in the future, if it could be any connected devices or IoT and OT devices, which tag an event as a security or an audit incident or events, will definitely fall in the bucket of a SIM, where you collect and process all the events. SOAR is, yes, as I said, it's a, you do automation of your events or incident, and what kind of action has to be taken care. And this is all the automation which we are talking about. So SOAR is all about automation.
Perfect. So we have a question saying, how can you maintain integrity in a forensic manner?
Maintain integrity in forensic. Okay, so a good point about SIM is, or if you are capturing events and storing it in a database, even if you go back on history and you wanted to perform certain forensic analysis, SIM will play one of the crucial role. That is, you can fetch data, let's say during so and so to so and so time, what exactly happened. Let's say you wanted to understand a user, let's say if a developer or a user who's trying to do some activity, what exactly was done by him from so and so. Now those kind of events will definitely come up, and we will definitely say those things are happening. As in a forensic, it's very good.
Right. We just pick up another couple of more questions. Meanwhile, there's a feedback on the screen. Feel free to leave your feedback today. So the next question is, could you explain about any threat analysis technique used in SIM and SOAR?
Sure. So, right. So in terms of threat analysis, what you need to, okay, this is not, so from day one, generally threat analysis, happen, but in a span of time, once you start gathering these, or you're building a knowledge base, your entire threat posture or threat analysis can become extremely strong. Similar goes with if you're integrating any of your external, let's say threat intel sources, and even if you're doing an in-house, let's say sandboxing environment, if you have created a sandbox environment, and if you have, let's say, exploded any of your viruses or phishing attacks or anything, now those kind of experiences, can be integrated into your overall automation or SOAR, or any of the process. That way, entire threat management can become extremely strong. But again, it takes certain time and efforts, doing it.
Right. So last two questions. How to understand the action names in SOAR, as there are several action frames in SOAR tool, but it's too complicated to understand those inbuilt functions.
Very true. That is true. That is where I said, you can actually fine tune your, your entire action in a SOAR. That is, I would say you should actually customize it based on your requirement, rather than straight away using those playbook. Many of the actions definitely, in fact, the playbooks are very well defined. Some of the actions, either if you wanted to skip or you wanted to put in, if you want to short an action also, you can do. But again, it all depends upon what kind of environment you are running. If it is an e-commerce environment or if it is a banking environment, I would say you have to take accordingly those kind of action. Similar goes with if you have a team which is there, or if you are trying to do any third-party analysis, you have to fine-tune your overall actions according to that.
So we'll just take one last question for the day. How to get into SOC analyst? What are the prerequisites if one has experience in some other domain who wants to jump into cybersecurity?
Yes, so it's sort of a common question which comes up to us. But again, the answer is actually, it's a good answer. Anyone having that, a knowledge of, let's say, how to, again, trying to understand the overall attack, attack vectors, or if you have some CH kind of background, you don't need to get, I'm not saying that you need to certify, but yes, certification will definitely help. So you need to understand what kind of these attacks are, how an attacker plays this, and what kind of detection tools you have. At least as a basic, you need to understand what is a SIM and how these devices, or how logs are connected or integrated and monitored. So it's very simple. CEH probably plus SIM kind of background, and some level of operating system and application knowledge is a basics, if you ask me.
All right, sir. I think that's about it. We just have one more. I think that's the one last question. Sorry. What step we will take if we know one malware file is trying to contact outside the IP of our organization?
Good point. One is, if you have a exit gateway, or if you have a firewall or a router, I know it's extremely difficult to keep monitoring what kind of traffic goes out of your network, but definitely you need to have your, let's say, user behavior analysis, or UBEs on network, or even on your gateway. If you have those kind of technology, again, this is also about IPS, which is in the next level of it. They can understand what kind of traffic is going inside and outside, and can alert you or even prevent you. If a IP address is a malicious IP address, and you are, let's say, an IPS, let's say on your gateway, you are able to prevent it. That is the kind of action. It's a default action. Then there are much more complicated networks. I don't want to get into that, but as in a basics, you should be able to do it.
All right, sir. I think that's about it, sir. Thank you so much for have gone above and beyond your time today. It was amazing to have a session today. I'm pretty sure people who attended have gotten a lot to learn about incident management. So guys, the recording will be available on the events page. Do go and check. You can spread out your friends. Also would recommend you to check the course out that I've shared the link with. If you use Shiva sir's promotion link, you're going to get some amazing discount, close to 5,000 rupees from the course. I strongly urge you to check that link. And Shiva sir, cannot thank you enough for today's session. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to more sessions in the future.
Definitely. Thank you so much, everyone. It was nice talking to you, and thanks for your time.